I'm Anthony.
And I'm Eric.
And I told you so. And I'll get to that in a moment. But before I get there, I want to talk about the Rams free agents. So there's a few things that I want to express here. First of all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because the free agent draft, or the free agent season, we had good, we had bad, and we had ugly. So first, let me address the good. The good was giving Aaron Donald help on the defensive line. Bringing in the kid from Detroit, Eric. I know his Ashawn's in his name. Is that his first or last? I never remember the guy's name. I know I suck at this.
His name is Ashawn Robinson.
There you go. I always want to call him Ashawn Jeffries. I don't know why I keep doing that. But then again, whatever. I don't have...
You've never been great with names anyways.
Exactly.
As it was so pointed out in our comment section.
Which, you know what I think is funny about that, Eric? You know, we're doing this from home, and we're doing this straight from memory. We don't have mountains and mountains of paperwork, thousands of people in staff, you know, that are giving us all these informations and numbers. All the stats that we generate either from observation, from putting it together ourselves, doing our own research, or just in general coming up with it. So I do want to say I'm proud of the job that we do on the show, because I think we provide some pretty darn good content just from our brains, unlike those superficial suits at the NFL Network and ESPN that have staff helping them, and then God knows we're better than Cynthia Freeland. Anyway, a little bit of, you know, what is it called? Tooting our own horn.
Yeah.
At any rate, Ashawn Robinson, Leonard Floyd from Chicago, those, I believe the Rams are going to go to a 4-3 defense because I just don't believe they have enough linebackers to play 3-4. So I think they're going to jump to...
I happen to agree with you there because that's the only... Well, even though Leonard Floyd played in a 3-4 his whole career with the Bears, I mean, I won't be surprised if Leonard Floyd for putting his hand in the dirt. Because even though he's an outside linebacker, he pretty much lines up on the D-line anyways. So, there's no way that the Rams are going to say, hey, Leonard, put your hand in the dirt and do your best, because I'll tell you, he'll struggle and struggle mightily if that happens.
Well, and the thing is, you don't need to. There's two stances you learn as a defensive end, 2-point and 3-point. And if a guy is better at 2-point than 3-point, why are you going to force him to do something he doesn't want to do? Unless it's goal line situation and you're putting other people around him. I think the Rams are going to go to a 4-3. I think you're going to see Leonard Floyd at defensive end. I think Aaron Donald is going to be jumping around from defensive end to defensive tackle to nose tackle to defensive tackle and probably playing the other defensive end. He'll be a quote-unquote defensive end in term only, but he's going to play all over that D-line. Then you got Ashawn Robinson, and then we re-signed Michael Brockers, which I was thrilled about because we have ourselves Fearsome Foursome 2.0. Because what Robinson and Brockers do well is what the Rams struggled with last year. Brockers I felt bad for the last 2 years with the Rams because you can't be the only guy good at stopping the run in the entire defensive unit. Now, you got two linchpins, you got a triangle, you got the kid from Virginia that tackles everything coming off of a knee injury, and hopefully that translates into the NFL game, and you've got two defensive tackles that can really stop the run. You've got that triangle of death that the Bears so well utilized in the early aughts with Urlacher and those guys. So I'm excited about that. And then you've got Donald who, let's face it, his one weakness is stopping the run, and I say that almost with tongue in cheek because if you're going to gash him, you're going to gash him with the run game. You're not going to beat him with the passing game. But he is still one of the best guys at stuffing guys behind the line of scrimmage and is one of the better run-stopping defensive linemen in all of professional football. You can't be the greatest, you can't be the best defensive player in the National Football League and be one-dimensional. But there have been times teams have gotten him on that. Now he's got some help on that front. It's not just him and Brockers anymore, which is nice to see. Like you said, all we need from Leonard Floyd is more than 3.5 sacks, and we've already cashed in on the one-year deal, as far as I'm concerned. Linebacking position is a concern, obviously, and that's where I get into the bad. So the bad is we're putting all of our eggs in the basket offensive line-wise of okay, these two guys looked really good at the end of the year. We're going to go with these guys moving forward. We're not going to address offensive line. I don't like that. If anything, get yourself some depth capability because God knows you needed it last year and you didn't have it. Now we don't have it again. But not getting help at linebacker and taking your trust in relative unknowns and guys coming off of serious season-ending injuries, I'm not sure that's a recipe for success whatsoever. Secondary, we're fine. I mean, I think Jalen Ramsey's overrated. I don't think he's one of the best corners in professional football. I've never thought he was one of the best corners in professional football. I thought it was a nice duo when he had A.J. Bouye and him in Jacksonville. But he is the Cam Newton of defensive backs. If he does well early, you're good with him the whole game. But if he doesn't do well early, you're going to have yourself a 500-yard passing day. And that's what I'm worried about. Because he can't cover no-name wide receivers when he's having a bad day. And he does do a decent job of covering good wide receivers on a good day. Well, now we've got DeAndre Hopkins in the division. I know he's familiar with DeAndre, and I'd be curious how bad DeAndre blew up Jacksonville when they played each other, if he did at all. That's something I have to research and look into. But I didn't like the fact that they didn't bolster their linebackers and bolster their O-line, which were clearly two areas of concern. Then you've got, we didn't even trade him. We just cut him. Like, I don't understand the logic there. You have to pay the guy anyway, so why cut him? And I'm talking obviously about Todd Gurley. If you can't trade him and you got no plan behind him, we pull the Patriots. We let our guy go with no backup in place. No plan for the future. We just went, we're going to save $2 million, let's do it. Where did that $2 million go? You didn't even re-sign your kicker, which I'm going to get to in a minute. Where did that $2 million go? What was the point? I don't mind trading Gurley. I don't even mind cutting Gurley. As long as you do something in return. We got nothing in return. Worthless Snead struck again. You know, he better nail it out of the park again this year in the draft, and that's asking a lot. Because not even Chuck Noll hit the draft 5 years in a row. And that's where we're at. And oh, by the way, we still don't have a first-round pick. We'll have a first-round pick next year. So we can't afford to tank this year, or we're going to end up like the Chicago Bears with the Oakland Raiders getting a high pick. So in this case, it would be the Jaguars. There's a lot of bad in that whole scenario. But the ugly for me was, and I talked to you about this, Eric, why you don't re-sign a kicker. In this day and age, when a kicker can win you 4 to 5 games a year, you can go 10-6 with a good kicker and a decent nucleus. You can go 5-11 with a good nucleus and no kicker. This isn't rocket science. You have the best kicker in professional football and you let him go to Dallas? A rival, no less? I'm just shaking my head.
Which is funny to me because Dallas just re-signed Dan Bailey. So what are you going after Zerline for? Now you're paying 2 kickers?
They're not.
Dallas wants to win, but you can only have 1 kicker on the field at a time.
Well, they're not going to keep Dan Bailey, and they're not going to keep Kai Forbath. When you've got a guy where you're in field goal range.
I know they're not going to. I'm just saying, why give Dan Bailey that money?
I agree.
That you signed him for, and then just turn around and sign Zerline. I mean, Zerline only converted 72% of his kicks last year, so it's not like he was off the charts, otherly godly in the field goal department last year. But I mean, name recognition is everything. I get it.
Well, it's more than Eric. Hold on, I'm cutting you off here. It's more than that. He's never missed an extra point, right? Since they went to the new format, and when you cross midfield, you're in field goal range. You can't say that about Dan Bailey. You can't say that about Kai Forbath. When a guy like that pops up on the market, you have to go get him because Dallas understands the value of a kicker. They've suffered from that probably more than anybody else in the NFC East. So yes, when a kicker becomes available, yeah, you pay Dan Bailey because you thought you fixed your kicking needs. But when Morton Anderson pops up on the block, you're spending money to get Morton Anderson if that's your biggest weakness. And that's what the Dallas Cowboys did.
Greg Zuerlein was perfect on extra points last season. The 2 seasons prior to that, 17 and 18, he missed a total of 3.
Okay, so total of 3 in 4 years, 3 years, since they went to the new format. That's 1 per year. I mean, Dan Bailey missed last year, just last year alone, or the last 2 years. Let's just go with the last 2 years. We'll do the same thing, 3 years. Do the comparison. But he might have been 72% of field goals last year, but he was 100% on extra points. And like I said, when you've got a kicker where you cross midfield and you're already in field goal range, man, that's a weapon. That's a weapon. And now it's a weapon the Rams don't have. So, guys, here's where it gets really ugly for me. I can't make a prediction on the Rams. I can't. I don't care what they do in the draft, what they do moving forward. I don't care if they land Antonio Brown and they trade Brandon Cooks for the best offensive lineman in football. I can't make a prediction on the Rams because I don't know who's kicking the ball through the pipes and how good they are.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. Dan Bailey missed 4 extra points alone last year, so it doesn't matter what he did 3 years.
Right.
He missed 4 just last year alone.
There you go. So I don't know what to tell you because I'm to the point now where I could very well see a lot of fourth quarter comebacks go by the wayside on Jared Goff's behalf because of a gosh darn kicker. Let's not forget who put us in the damn Super Bowl, and let's not forget the only guy to score in the damn Super Bowl. And you let that guy go? Name me another kicker in a championship game that would have kicked a 57-yard field goal at the gun and a 56-yard field goal to win the damn game or whatever it was.
Vinatieri.
57 yards?
Back in the day.
57 yards? He never had that kind of leg. He was not a long-range, accurate kicker. You could get he was dead accurate from the 49 in. From the 50 out, he was a little wobbly.
Justin Tucker could do it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about right now in the National Football League.
Yeah, Justin Tucker.
Justin Tucker hasn't done it.
Justin Tucker could do it.
You say he could do it, but I know for a fact Greg the Leg can do it because he's done it. There's a lot of guys in the NFL people think may be able to do it, but until that moment arrives and they actually do it, you don't know. Everyone thought...
Now you guys need a kicker, so Cody Parkey's out there for you.
Yeah,
so he might be able to do
no
it.
kidding, right? Let me put an explanation point on this for you, Eric. Everybody thought Gary Anderson could do it too, until he was in the situation. And guess what? He didn't do it.
Yeah, well, neither did Norwood.
Amen, brother. And everyone thought Norwood could do it. Although it's funny, I'm watching the 89 season. He missed 3 field goals in 1989, wide right from 47 yards out. I don't know if that's a thing, but that's just weird. It's funny because we know what happened in 1990 Super Bowl 25. Anyway, I don't know, dude. This idea that, they're just a kicker. If you think that way, I'll tell you what, dude. If I was the Rams owner, I'd walk into Les Snead's office and I'd straight up tell him that if we don't win the Super Bowl this year, you got your walking papers. Because what you've done this offseason looks to me like you don't know what the hell you're doing. Because I don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, no offense to Hecker, okay? I would much rather have Greg Zuerlein than Hecker. Because those are points coming off the board now. Hecker saves you points. Zuerlein gets you points. And devil's in the details, I would prefer to have both. But if I had to choose one, would I rather have a bullet in the brain or put a bullet in the brain? I'd rather put a bullet in the brain. So, here we are. So, I don't know. Maybe there's people out there like, no, I'm glad we lost Greg the Leg. I doubt it.
I will say this, both positions are important, okay? I would rather take the kicker myself, although Johnny Hecker is 1 in a million, okay? There's not a lot of punters like him, But I will tell you that if you have a good punter, you could always set your defense up in great position. And you already know that. But my thing is like I think you could easily go through punters and still find one to keep around for a few years. Hecker's definitely goes against that grade because he's been around what seems like 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
But a bad punter will also put your defense in bad field position. But a kicker, man, that kicker, they don't come around too often.
They win you games at the end of the game. And the thing is, we're going to hear about how bad Jared Goff is, and the fans out there that don't like Jared Goff on the Rams. I'm telling you right now, if you don't like Jared Goff and you're a Ram fan, I can't help you. I've been through some pretty bad years. I know what Tony Banks looks like. I've said this over and over again. You guys don't know how good you have it because you've never been exposed to a bad quarterback in your entire life as a fan. Okay? So trust me when I say he's good, right? But now we've got a guy that's going to drive us into field goal range to win the game, and we're going to truck out the kicker, and he's going to friggin' hit the upright, or he's going to be wide right or wide left, or he's going to get frozen, or he's just flat out going to miss the kick, or it's going to get blocked, or it's going to fall short. Take your pick. I've seen this dog and pony show before. So, you know, we were lucky in a lot of ways, not just because we had Greg the Leg, but because we went from Wilkins to Greg the Leg, pretty much. Might have been some, that's not true. We had some guys in between, but it was a short period. And we picked up a guy like Josh Brown from Seattle who had a strong leg, but was a little inaccurate, but was still, I would argue, a top 10 kicker. But man, guys, we went into St. Louis with no kicker. We're going into the new stadium with no kicker. So I don't know what the Rams' record's going to be.
Unless you sign Dan Bailey after he gets cut.
Well, and even that, he missed 4 extra points last year. Nothing's guaranteed. With Greg, it was guaranteed. Going to be a lot of 2-point conversion attempts by the Los Angeles Rams this year. I'm just saying it right now. A lot of 4th down going for it when they should be kicking a field goal, which isn't good. Because if you're going for it on 4th down, then that means you didn't get it on 3rd down. Doesn't it?
It does.
So, just saying. This to me is the worst move of Les Snead's entire career as a general manager. That you couldn't find the funds to sign a kicker. It's not like they're expensive. And this is more of a reason I hate Jalen Ramsey. And yeah, I said it. I hate Jalen Ramsey with a passion because he's responsible for all this. Because he wants this big cash payout that isn't relevant, and he's completely dismantled the Los Angeles Rams. He is a cancer that has arrived on the team. But who brought him in? Worthless Snead. Worthless Snead. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll draft a kicker in the 2nd round. Because that's always good.
You should. I mean, the highest kicker I've ever seen get drafted was Sebastian Janikowski in the 1st round.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, we got a running back that can't catch a pitch. So, I think we got the running back position locked down according to Worthless. So, you know, let's let Henderson average 2.1 yards a carry and not run the ball this year. Looks like they're going to put all their eggs in that basket.
So I've got a very serious question for you. Are you going to spend $70 on Darrell Henderson in fantasy football?
Dude, I wouldn't spend 70 of somebody else's dollar. I wouldn't spend $1 of somebody else's money on Devin Henderson. I won't even be picking him up in the waiver wire.
Yep, he's all yours.
Yeah, no kidding. So, Eric, your assessment on the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, ever since the Rams just started trading draft picks like they were candy. I mean, you see these teams who are stockpiling draft picks, and the Rams are giving draft picks away. So, you know, they're doing something that really they should be gearing up to and not trading away and stockpiling to actually have a fan base in LA with a new stadium. I'm not saying they don't have a fan base, but I'm saying the fans want something they can hang their hat on. And if you just bring in a Rams team that's just okay, and there's going to be fighting for at least third place in the division next year, and they're not winning 11 games, Jim Foster. Then knowing this and knowing what you had to do, like I understand why they signed Gurley when they did. Okay, I understand they had to, but if they didn't, the Rams never get. Who knows what happens with the Rams? I mean, they could have used that money elsewhere. They could have kept their draft picks. Sometimes you just got to say goodbye a year early before it's a year too late. And with all that being said, like the Jalen Ramsey trade, actually, it was a head scratching trade because it's like, okay, you trade for Ramsey, but you trade Peters. I would have rather kept Peters. And even though his money was coming off the books, like I would have been okay with that. Like you could always say re-sign him, but like giving up all those draft picks for Ramsey, it's like, what are you guys doing? Like, hey, you know what? I look at it like a Chicago Bears situation because right now we're kind of in the same boat. We traded 2 first-round picks for Khalil Mack. All right, I think you traded for 2 first-round picks for Jalen Ramsey. So, who would you rather have, the quarterback or the defensive end? I mean, really all depends on how your team is shaped and built. But we don't have any draft picks or first round draft pick this year in a stud wide receiver class that we could use it for. Okay, so we haven't even signed a wide receiver yet. What do we need? We're spending our money in places we don't need to spend the money. Like on Jimmy Graham, we could have got Eric Ebron for $4 million less, or we could have not signed Robert Quinn and probably overpaid Boston Hoover. But I'd have been fine with that. You're allocating your money where it should be. It just goes to tell me that my front office has no clue what they're doing.
Well, same with mine. Because as bad as Gurley might have been, he was still better than anybody on the roster. And they didn't make any moves to improve that. We gave solutions for trading Gurley or replacements for Gurley. I didn't think the defensive line needed that much improving. I mean, let's put it this way. The defensive line was an issue, but what was more of an issue? The O-line and, linebacker or D-line. So I can't say that my front office didn't know.
The O-line was the biggest issue, but it seemed like it was getting fixed the last few games. But you don't know if that's going to hold up throughout the course of a whole season.
Right.
There's some guys that came in there who were fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to be fresh for 16 games, for the last quarter of the season or just a couple games past the quarter mark. But, who knows if they're going to hold up for 16? You don't know that.
You don't.
So, yeah, getting an offensive lineman, whether it's a center guard or tackle, shouldn't matter. Just get somebody to plug and play, use it for depth, okay? That's where your biggest need was.
Yep.
Now, do I think Leonard Floyd was a signing you should have made? No, not at all. I think you could have got him cheaper if you waited. I don't think he was actually going to go anywhere, to be honest with you, and I'll tell you why. He only signed with the Reds because he knows the coach that went from Chicago to LA. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
Okay? And because they play two different styles of defense, you're going to see him struggle the first at least the first quarter of the year.
Yeah, maybe the first half, yeah. I mean, I don't know, dude. I just it's almost to me like the Rams are trying to compete with the Chargers rather than compete with the league. And great, you win the Battle of LA, you had a better record. What is I don't even know that they're going to have a better record than San Diego at this point. I really don't. Because the Chargers got Teddy Bridgewater, correct?
No, Bridgewater went to the Panthers.
Oh, that's right. He went to the Panthers.
the Chargers lost Rivers. Currently, their starting quarterback is Tyrod Taylor.
Okay, so the Rams will do better than the Chargers. Okay. For some reason, I was thinking Teddy Bridgewater went there. I know we talked about him earlier leaving. Okay, great. So the Chargers go 4-12. You go 5-11. Congratulations, you beat the Chargers. What good does that do you? You're still last in the division. You're still looking at other people in the playoffs, and that's what's going to win LA. Not doing better than the other team there that's not even there for the long haul. Because the Chargers ain't sticking around in San Diego, in LA. I'm sorry, they're not. So I don't understand it. And it's almost like the Rams are the exact opposite of what they were in the 80s. In the 80s, they wouldn't spend money on anybody. They underpaid their guys. They constantly were screwing them over when it came to money. And now these guys are throwing money around like it doesn't have consequences, and we're getting nailed on the salary cap. Now, I want to end on a happy note with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And before I do, Eric, do you have your own version of good, bad, and ugly with the Rams? Or do you kind of agree with what we've talked about?
I mean, honestly, there hasn't been much good with the Rams in free agency so far, okay? The good, I will say, if you want to make it good, I like the Rams bringing back Brockers.
Yep.
Only because, I know the Ravens wanted him at 3 years, $30 million, and the Rams pretty much gave him the same amount of money that he was given from the Ravens. The Ravens just didn't like the high ankle sprain, and maybe some other stuff in the medicals that they saw that might have been sent from, LA to Baltimore. I don't know how they do that. Honestly, I think they probably just send it to you from a doctor or from over email or something. I don't know. Especially in times today, but the Rams are like, okay, well, we know him best, so Brockers, we're going to bring him back. I like that they brought him back. I know there is a such thing as having too many good players on defense. Not everybody's going to be able to play, but you can always tailor your defense to where everybody can't play, obviously. So yeah. I do like the Brockers signing. I don't like letting Zerline go. I'm expecting to hear Hecker being re-signed very soon by the Rams. Hopefully, because if you need a punter too, your offseason has gotten crazy. Yeah. I think the best thing that we can look forward to see if the Rams have a good offseason from a mediocre offseason to a good offseason would be, like you mentioned earlier, nailing the draft. And they would need to hit a home run on every single pick. There's no first round pick, so get somebody there. If you can trade Cooks to get something valuable, whether that's another draft pick or offensive line help, I think you have to do it. Or you could trade him for a running back, maybe, or you sign Devontae Freeman off the scrap heap. But I don't know how much money you have. With bringing back Brockers, bringing on Sean Robinson, bringing on Leonard Floyd, I just think you need to look a little bit on the offensive side. And I know maybe subtraction by addition, subtract Cooks, but you already have Josh Reynolds, so you're fine there. So add something else that you need. So it's really hard. I think right now they're on the mediocre off season. Mediocre to okay.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's anything special that they've done.
No. And I'll say this about Brandon Cooks. The man is a man of faith. He's a documented, outstanding human being. And I will say this. If we don't get a first-round pick for Brandon Cooks or a great running back, I don't want to trade him. We need people like that in our locker room right now. We need people that are not just good people, but well-grounded people. And with his concussion history, I would be really disappointed in the Rams for everything that he sacrificed to just cut him loose for a second or a third round pick, or to free up money in the cap space. You're not getting anything in the free agency that's going to repair the damage you've already done. So I understand we got somebody that could come in and replace him. They can't replace his speed downfield, okay? But we can replace we got a good receiver in the wings. I get it. Don't trade Brandon Cooks at this point. At this point, like I said, unless it's for a running back, an offensive lineman, a position of severe need, or a first round pick, I'm gonna be pissed if they trade him, because we need some good people in the locker room. You have it, your Aaron Donald, your Brockers, but we also have a Jalen Ramsey. We also have, other characters in the locker room that aren't so outstanding, that we need a Brandon Cooks to kind of level things out, especially since we lost Aqib Talib. Now, that being said, moving forward. What was it I was going to talk about? Anything that you wanted to cover, and you said no, not really, but you did want to. Did you want to touch a little bit on the Bears and do your own version of Good, Bad, and Ugly with Chicago?
Well, it's been pretty ugly so far.
Yeah.
Like, the Bears did go out a few days ago and sign an offensive lineman who was with the Seahawks for his first 4 years of his career, Jermaine Affetti, who's a guard, which I thought was huge for the Bears to bring in an offensive lineman to help solidify, with the loss of Kyle Long to retirement and the offensive line not being able to block even an Army advance coming through. They need somebody on there, and I wouldn't care if they actually, in the second round, drafted an offensive lineman, and then drafted another offensive lineman, and then in the third round drafted another offensive lineman. You need offensive line help, and you need to be able to open up holes for David Montgomery, but also protect the darn quarterbacks. Now that we have two quarterbacks who are actually going to, I guess, compete for the starting job in the offseason. I don't know if there's really going to be much of a competition, but I also want to know who you're throwing to, because I know Jimmy Graham isn't what he used to be, hasn't been what he used to be for the last 7 years, and you need somebody to throw the ball to. Sorry, but Allen Robinson is going to get covered so tightly, double covered, that, that's going to leave open Anthony Miller, Javon Wims, and Riley Ridley. And if you say, who to any of those three guys, I don't blame you, outside of Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
So, they could have gone out. They could have got Rashad Perriman. They could have gotten Robbie Anderson. They could have made their offense a lot more self-sufficient, a lot better pass catching abilities, but they decide not to go and sign a tight end for $4 million less than Eric Ebron. He goes to Pittsburgh. So instead they signed Jimmy Graham, who's 944 years old in NFL years and can't shed a block. So when you can't shed a block and you only catch passes on broken down plays, you don't really have that mobile of a quarterback when Nick Foles is going to be your starting quarterback. He'll get you the ball, okay? I have no issues with that. He'll get you the ball, but you don't have time with a that offensive line to have him hold on to that ball, and he might actually break his other collarbone this year.
Yeah. Well.
But I don't know. It's a trying time for the Bears right now. I'm curious what they're going to do with the draft. I know they hit on a lot of good guys at the latter part of the draft, but you need to be able to hit on guys in the early part of the draft too. And if the Bears don't do that, if they have another 8 or worse year, you're going to see sweeping changes in Chicago.
Well, as Chuck Knox once said, you get your starters in the front half, you get your depth in the back half. And sometimes you're lucky and you find a gold star starter in the back half. But you got to draft well. And, I don't know. I don't know. The Rams have drafted well, but second round pick, I mean, they blew it last time they had a second round pick to work with. They could have gotten linemen then. They didn't. They got Gerald Everett, even though they had Tyler Higbee, which I still don't understand that move. Don't get me wrong, Gerald Everett's a nice player, but who would you rather have? One of those linemen we talked about 3 years ago, 4 years ago now, whatever it was. It's just, Anyway, I digress. I'm moving forward with the logo. So, guys, I read a lot of people's comments on Twitter. I haven't heard anybody's input from our show on it. I will tell you, I told LT the same thing. You all missed the boat. Why am I excited about the new logo? The colors. It's a logo, folks. I don't care. Take a look at this hat. Okay? That's the logo. Everyone loves that logo. It's not like that logo's not going to be around. And this is when the Rams were in LA, when they went back to LA. The Rams have had so many logos over the years, they're not going to be stupid and cut off all sales of all logos except the new one. You don't like the new one? Buy the old one. But guess what? Now your colors match, right? Because now you can get the old logo from the 80s and the 70s, right? And the 90s, and you're good because your colors are going to match what's on the field. So for me, that was all I cared about. Go back to the blue and yellow. Eric speculated it was going to be almost like a DiGiorno colored yellow. Others had speculated it was going to be a navy blue. You even said that, Eric, like a Bears navy blue. Nope. The Rams went.
Just what I saw from Donald on his workout post, and I thought he may have had something there with that.
Right. It was fair.
Maybe it was just what's that?
I said it was fair. It was fair. A lot of people were speculating they were going to go with the white and the blue, but they went with the royal blue and gold. Now, they can call it whatever they want. It's royal blue and gold, right? It's what it was in the 80s, and that's what I'm going to call it now. Now, the Rams head. I want to touch on this. The new Rams head. No one seems to understand that was representative of all 3 decades. Let me explain. The shape of the ram head was similar to the 1960s. The horns on the ram head was similar to the ram horns of the 1970s. And then the colors were a shout out to the 80s, 90s, the 80s and 90s, and even in some regards, the mid 70s. So they took all 4 decades, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and all 4 decades, and put them together. I thought it was a nice shout out. The thing that I liked about the original, the ram head that came out, was that it was nice for 2 reasons. One, you can improve it, right? You can always add coloring to the eyes. You can add a mouth. You can change the nose design. Not the design, but the colors that make up the nose. There were so many different things that they could do that would just constantly create money every year without having to change the uniform or anything else. I understand why the fans are in an uproar. I know the LA thing a lot of the fans were upset with, but you got to modernize it somehow, and I thought it was a nice touch. I personally thought it was kind of a neat idea to make it look like a wave and then turn into a ram horn, and incorporating the L and the A. What I don't like is criticism without a response. Oh, I hate it. Why? I hate it. Okay, well, you're one of those people, and I'll leave it at that. It's fine if you don't like it. Like, I respect the hell out of LT because he said, I don't like it. Here's what I wanted, and then gave me solutions, right? I'm all for that. Not everyone has to like the logo, but I do want people to calm down and relax. It's a logo. I know Eric Dickerson said he was going to go talk to the Rams and try to get the logo changed. Good luck with that, dude. They just had this big unveil. The last thing they're going to do is change the damn logo. Now, maybe what they'll do...
Right. And I'm going to add to this. Do you really think the Rams took the first iteration of that logo and was like, yep, we're going to go with that?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to pay millions of dollars to this company to help us create this logo, and this is what the front office wanted. Okay, so if you're going to be mad at anything, be mad at Demoff, be mad at Snead, be mad at
yeah,
whoever. There's always somebody you can go up to, and typically it's usually the owner, because he may have final say, and they may have looked at 7 to 10 different logos and color schemes and whatnot for the Rams, and they're like, well, what do we want? What is going to keep us with the past, but also bring us into the present and going into the future. And they're like, well, we think this one is. Like, reimagine the logo all you want. Like Anthony said, that's fine. Like, you don't have to buy anything with that logo on it. Okay? And I tell Anthony this all the time. Everybody knows we went to Arizona State together. Like, I would wear ASU stuff all the time because it had Sparky on it. As soon as they went to Pitchfork, like, you won't find me wearing any Pitchfork stuff. Not because I live outside the Chicago area. I don't want to freaking get shot. All right?
Yeah.
I don't think it was wise. Do they listen to their alumni? Did they listen to the fans? No, they did what they wanted to do without any fan input, just like the Rams did, okay? Because they would never get done with a logo and color scheme and anything if they listened every time to what the fans wanted. You either like it or you don't, and you move on, and you either buy the merchandise or you don't. You either save your money or provide them, what they're looking for, and that's, to go and get money from that logo that you're going to be sporting at, whether you're out or at the sporting event. But they do this, and they're behind closed doors trying to figure out. I'm surprised that I'm actually, I think it's hilarious that, Eric Dickerson was like, hey, I want to go talk to him about it. I'm actually surprised they didn't have Dickerson in that room.
Yeah.
Because who might know the best who's been there that whole time?
Well,
since the 80s.
Yeah. Well, that's...
He might actually have some valuable input. So the Rams might have messed up there.
Yeah.
But again, they want so few people in there, okay, so that everybody can get on the same page. Because if you have like a room full of 10, 15 people, you're never going to get anything done.
Well, so there's two things I want to touch on here. I agree with the fans, and I agree with you in the sense that not having Eric Dickerson in the room was a huge mistake, right? He's the Ram ambassador, right? We needed him there. All well and good. Fine. Fair criticism. Agreed. But they did, I do want to interrupt here. They did agree with the Rams. They did listen to the fans. We were saying over and over again, we didn't say, how many times did I hear people post, I don't care what the logo looks like, or not post, but heard Ram fans say, I don't care necessarily about the logo, just as long as it's blue and yellow, that's all I want. Blue and yellow, blue and yellow, blue and yellow, blue and yellow, blue and yellow. We got blue and yellow. So they listened to the fans. Unequivocally.
Hold on. Let me stop you right there. Hold on, let me stop you right there. Do you remember when the Rams went to blue and gold, or they went to blue and white, how bad the reaction was?
Yeah.
Okay? And I know you're probably shaking your head saying, yeah, okay? But don't you think they already knew blue and yellow way before any fans said anything? They're like, we can't really stray because we got hammered when we went to dark blue and white. We got hammered when we took the yellow out when we were in St. Louis and put in the gold. And, people still, supported the city of St. Louis. Did they not? Probably not. But we got hammered going there. And then as soon as they're able to wear their old throwbacks, they went to blue and yellow. Now everybody's commenting on it. They already knew. And yes, it got reiterated by the fans, but there was no way they would let it stray from something else other than blue and yellow.
You want me to prove you wrong? You want me to prove you wrong? Because I can do it right now. When they did the helmet redesign, they chose blue and white. They chose blue and white. Not the Ram fans, the ownership.
No, I'm not saying
Hold on.
Changed
No,
blue and white.
What I'm saying is, I think you're right on this part. The Rams were going to change from blue and gold. There was no question they were going to change from that Notre Dame gold and navy blue. But I believe the Ram ownership was pretty set on going to blue and white. When the fans started saying blue and yellow, blue and yellow, blue and yellow, blue and yellow, and the reaction, that's why they brought out the jerseys. And I think they were signaling to the fans, okay, we've heard you. Deal with this blue and white redesign for now, and we're going to listen to you. So in that regard, I think they did listen to the fans because I think it was telling. My birthday is when they made the decision. I'll never forget. That's the only time I've ever been on Twitter. I went on Twitter and I voted. But we had a vote between the face mask being white, being gray or staying blue. We voted for white. We had a vote for the stripe on the pants, but they clearly went to a blue and white scheme. And even though we voted on that, the fans are like, this is great, but we want blue and yellow, blue and yellow, blue and yellow. And that's when the Rams made the move. Look at how many times the Rams wore the blue and yellow in 17 compared to 18 and 19. Okay? That cannot be mistaken or misunderstood. So I do think they did want to redesign the logo, Eric, yes. And they did want to go to a different color scheme, yes. But I do think the fans are the ones that pushed for the blue and yellow, and ownership listened because they were going to go with blue and white. As far as I go with the logo, my input is this. I like the one with the ram head and the LA in it. I know that that's one that's been bantered around. It was a combination of both. Regardless of what they choose, I'm just ecstatic that the Rams are going to be wearing the blue and the yellow jerseys again. I'm really curious to see how this uniform is going to look going into next year, especially the away uniforms. That's the one I'm looking at with a keen eye because those were my favorites. I mean, this one was nice, but man, I love the Rams away unis in the 80s and 90s. Those were the reasons I became a Ram fan. That uniform right there. So I don't want them to mess that up. But I personally, my feeling is I like the logo. I think it was unique. Here's what pissed me off. And I wish I could have responded, but unfortunately it was on Twitter. One of these so-called experts in the media world said, I'm looking at the Ram logo and I don't know the difference between the Rams and the Chargers now. Then you need to purchase some glasses and you need to retire from announcing sports because you're an idiot. Okay? You can't tell the difference between a giant blue and yellow horn wrapping around the L to an L and an A with a lightning bolt for the A. You can't tell the difference. So, miss me with that nonsense. It looks nothing like the Chargers logo. The Chargers logo was lazy and simple and basically took the Dodger logo and changed it a little bit. The Rams took the L and the A and put their own spin on it. Now, people could be upset that they went with L and A, and, you know, the Dodgers do that, the Chargers do that, the Lakers do that, we don't need to do that. Okay, fair criticism. But let's not say it looks like the Chargers, because you sound stupid when you say that. Just say. E, your take on this.
I can see some similarities, okay? But the Chargers are also unveiling a new uniform combination, and I believe they're going more to the light blue, like the Rams are. But if you're actually saying, oh, what's the difference between the two? Like, yeah, you need to get your eyes checked. I agree 100% with you on that, Anthony.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a ram horn that's a C, for California, okay? And there's a lightning bolt that is not a ram horn. That's for the Chargers. The lightning bolt is actually a little bit more straighter than a C. Okay, so yeah, there's a big difference. So I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear that. The Chargers. Oh, they actually combine their logos, or they're a lot like the Chargers. I'm like, but they're nothing alike. I mean, anybody who can look into both logos and be like, oh no, they're too similar. You need help.
All right, I'm gonna wrap up with this. Little word of advice from an old-time Ram fan. I'm 41 years old. Been a fan for, 30-something years, 30-plus years. Let me give you some advice for 2021. It's not what you're going to want to hear. Okay? And this advice may carry into 2022 as well. Don't set high expectations. I hear a lot of fans, LT and I were talking, last place. Yeah, make that assumption. If they do better than that, then it's a success, right? But looking at this roster, looking at the fact that we don't have a kicker, looking at our division, we didn't get better. We got worse. So I don't want fans saying 11-5 and then being shocked or disappointed when we go 5-11 or 8-8 or 9-7. Again, I don't know what we're going to do because I don't know who our kicker is. And yes, kickers make that big of a difference. So my hope is that Jared Goff continues to mature and maybe he wins a few games just by being unbelievable under center, that the line protects him. Maybe we find another diamond in the rough in the draft at running back. Whatever the case may be. But my attitude is going to be to sit back, enjoy the Rams' new logo, take this season with a grain of salt, take 2021 with a grain of salt, and gear up for 2022, which I think could be a really good year for the Rams. At this point, McVay, it's very clear to me that Sean McVay has no say in this organization. They're treating him like a child. They're treating him like a puppet. They've dismantled his coaching staff. They've dismantled his football team. They're like, you just go ahead and coach, little boy. You just go ahead and coach. I don't like that. If your head coach doesn't have the respect from the general manager and the owner, then I get the feeling Sean McVay is a little bit more cerebral than people in the Rams organization think. And I think he's every bit as cerebral as NFL Good Morning Football talks about on the NFL Network. I think he's kind of like, okay, when's my contract run out? Because I'm out. I'm going to go somewhere that appreciates me. So, okay, I'll honor my contract. I'll keep coaching. I'll shut my mouth. I'll be a good little boy. And then I'm going to go somewhere and I'm going to beat the living piss out of you every time I play you for the rest of my existence. And oh, by the way, I'm in my 30s. I'm going to be here for a while. So the Rams better lock that up and tighten that up, because I can tell you from a coach's perspective, you could play the game and then walk out the door and put that team on your number one hate list. So I don't like the way the Rams are treating Sean McVay. I don't like it at all, because it's very clear to me he's got zero say in any of this. The last thing that I want to touch on is Todd Gurley. I'm so happy for him. To be able to play back home with the team you wanted to play with, back in your home state of Georgia, in front of your Bulldog family, man, I'm hoping Todd Gurley rushes for 2,000 yards next year and leads Atlanta to the Super Bowl. Atlanta is my adopted fourth team next year. As you guys know, I follow three teams pretty religiously: the Rams, the Redskins, and the Browns. And then I always adopt a fourth team every now and then. Bears a few years ago. Last year, I kind of adopted the Bills. This year, I'm adopting Atlanta. I want nothing but good things for Todd Gurley. I hope he puts to bed that knee injury isn't a thing, not just for the sake of the running back position, but for the sake of Falcon fans, for the sake of him, and for the sake, honestly, of people like April, who are Ram fans, but they're from Georgia, and I'm sure she has maybe some leanings towards the Falcons, although she's never said so. And April, comment down below if that's not true, but I'm guessing it might be. Either way, it would just be good for the city of Atlanta, especially after that Super Bowl debacle a few years ago, to get back and win it with a homegrown talent like Todd Gurley would be amazing. So the wayward son comes home. The lost sheep returns, if you will. It's a pretty cool story, and I'm going to be rooting for Atlanta on that front. E, anything you want to wrap up with?
As far as everything else goes, we're going to see a different type of draft coming up in April. It's not going to be in Vegas. I think it's going to be one of those where, hey, everybody's on a computer, and there's going to be a teleconference, and that's how we're going to draft, which I think is going to make the draft very awkward and weird. But I also don't like the infamous commissioner saying, if you talk about the draft and that we should move it, you're going to be penalized. Dude, shut up already. Like, people can have their opinions, and if they don't like it, shove it up your butt. I don't care. But if you just say the draft doesn't go on as is, then that's it. That's what he wants, and that's how it's going to be. So, going around, people like, I'm going to penalize you, and you're going to get fined, and start draft picks, and you're going to lose your team in your city. Come on, dude. Like, who the hell are you?
Yeah. Well, I'll say that. I'll say.
But I'll tell you this: with the state of the world that's in right now, I'm not going to get into the whole virus crap. I am semi-glad that football is going on technically as scheduled with our offseason, because, man, it's great that it's giving us something to talk about and something that we can bring to our listeners. Because if they shut down all football, there'd really be nothing to talk about right now.
Well, I'll tell you what I think. And this isn't me just saying this because I, feel this in my heart and I believe this. This is off of a lot of research. So I got some good news for the fans out there. I believe the draft is going to commence as normal. I think you're going to see a lot of fans in that place. I think it's going to be rocking because I think people are going to start getting back to work by April 13th. I think you're going to start to see you're going to start to see more stuff on the shelves. We already are. I think more and more people are going to start to relax because I, according to all the research, this chloroquine looks like it's going to be released to the public sometime between the 1st and the 10th. And once the cure is out there and the fear of getting it goes away, I think life returns as normal. And I think we're going to look back at this chapter of our lives and the $1 million question from this point moving forward. I know the answer. I feel very confident that I know the answer. But that doesn't mean I'm right. I just have my own personal opinion on the matter. The $1 million question is going to be, did we overreact or not? And that's going to be what people talk about when we talk about this period of time in our lives moving forward. But I expect the draft is going to carry on just as normal because I think this is all going to be over before April 28th or 25th or whatever the date is. So a little bit of some optimism moving forward, if you will. I just want to comment on that because you brought up the draft may change, and I don't think it will. I think everything's going to be back.
No. I didn't see the draft's going to change. The draft's going to go on as normal. They're not holding it in Vegas like they were originally scheduled to do. They're actually going to do it more like a video teleconference. They're going to have they'll have cameras set up in everybody's war room, and they'll probably just go from picture to picture to picture, but it'll still somehow be announced. I don't know how they're going to do that. I don't know if there's going to be one or two people at the ESPN set or whatever set that they do and say, here's Roger Goodell, and they're going to shoot to Roger Goodell in his house or in his New York office or something like that.
What I'm saying, I know. What I'm saying is, look in the news. I think they're going to change that format before the draft, and they're going to just basically go back to, here's the location that Goodell is going to be reporting out of. Here's where all the players are going to be. We'll sell tickets. It may be too late to do that because you usually start that process now. So I won't be surprised if if they don't change it again, just because the draft is 3-4 weeks away at this point. But at the same time, they're not going to be taking coronavirus precautions by the time that draft comes around. It may be they're doing that because that was the format they switched to and it's too late to change, but it's not going to be because we're still cooped up in our homes. My 2 cents worth. Anyway, I'm Anthony.
I'm here.
Horns are definitely up.
And the Bears are definitely down.
Well, the Rams are down too, but the Horns are up as far as the logo. Let's see. Okay, bad joke. I digress. Go Rams!
Go Bears.
See you next time.